Most men think being psychologically untouchable means becoming cold, distant, or emotionally numb. It doesn't. In fact, some of the weakest men appear cold on the surface. They speak less. They show little emotion. They act unbothered. Yet a single criticism ruins their day. A single rejection destroys their confidence. A single setback sends them into quiet panic. Because psychological strength has never been about appearance. It is about what can and cannot move you. And that distinction changes everything. The truth is that life is constantly testing your emotional stability. Not with dramatic battles, with small moments, an ignored message, a disrespectful comment, a failed opportunity, someone doubting your abilities, someone leaving, someone succeeding where you wanted to succeed. Most men don't lose control during disasters. They lose control during ordinary moments. And the men who become psychologically untouchable learn a set of habits that protect them from those invisible attacks. Not by hardening their hearts, by mastering their minds. Today we're going to explore 5 cold habits that create that kind of strength. The first habit looks simple, but most men spend years avoiding it. And because they avoid it, they unknowingly hand other people control over their emotions. Habit number 1. Stop explaining yourself. A young man gets a new job. His family questions it. His friends doubt it. Some tell him he's making a mistake. Instead of moving forward, he spends weeks defending his decision. Explaining, justifying, convincing, seeking approval, and every conversation leaves him more uncertain than before. The strange thing is that he wasn't seeking advice. He was seeking permission. Most men don't realize how often they do this. They explain their goals. They explain their boundaries. They explain their decisions. They explain their ambitions. Not because clarity is needed. Because validation is needed. And validation is one of the most addictive drugs in human psychology. When your confidence depends on agreement, disagreement becomes a threat. Now other people control your emotional state. A Stoic philosopher would recognize this immediately. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly reminded himself that other people's opinions belong to them, not to him. Imagine 2 men making the same decision. One quietly acts, the other desperately seeks approval from everyone around him. Months later, the first man has progress. The second man has opinions. Think carefully about that. Many men mistake discussion for action. But discussion often becomes a hiding place. Psychologically untouchable men understand something uncomfortable. People rarely respect explanations. They respect conviction. The next time someone questions a decision you've already thought through, notice the urge to defend yourself. Notice the discomfort, then let it pass, because what comes next is even more dangerous. The second habit is where many men unknowingly give away their power every single day. Habit number 2. Become difficult to provoke. A businessman once spent years building his reputation. One afternoon, a stranger insulted him publicly. The insult lasted 5 seconds. His anger lasted 6 months. He replayed the moment repeatedly. He imagined arguments. He imagined revenge. He imagined proving himself. The stranger moved on immediately. But the businessman became a prisoner of a 5-second event. This is one of the oldest traps in human nature. The ego wants reaction. The ego wants retaliation. The ego wants emotional repayment. But emotional control is what separates strength from weakness. Seneca observed that anger punishes the person carrying it more than the person receiving it. And modern psychology continues to prove the same principle. Every time someone can predict your reaction, they possess influence over you. They know which buttons to press. They know how to manipulate your emotions. They know where your weaknesses live. Untouchable men remove those buttons. Not because they don't feel. Because they choose when feeling deserves action. Picture a man walking through life like a fortress. Insults arrive. Criticism arrives. Negativity arrives. Most of it never gets inside. Not because he ignores reality. Because he filters it. And here's what most people miss. Reaction feels powerful. Restraint is powerful. The strongest response is often no response at all. If you've ever realized that your biggest mistakes happened while emotional, share that realization in the comments. The conversations between disciplined men are often more valuable than the advice itself. And if these ideas are sharpening the way you see yourself and the world, subscribe. This channel is built for men who would rather develop inner strength than chase external approval. Now the third habit appears cold from the outside, but it may be one of the healthiest forms of self-respect a man can develop. Habit number 3. Detach from outcomes. A fighter trains for months. Sacrifices comfort, sacrifices sleep, sacrifices convenience. Fight night arrives. He performs perfectly, and still loses. The judges make a decision he cannot control. Most people never recover from moments like this, because they attached their identity to an outcome, not an effort. The deeper lesson is hidden beneath the surface. Life does not guarantee rewards. Life guarantees opportunities to act. Nothing more. You can do everything correctly and still experience failure. You can make the right decision and still encounter loss. You can be loyal and still be betrayed. You can work hard and still be overlooked. The man who understands this becomes incredibly difficult to break, because he stops measuring himself by results alone. His confidence comes from execution, not applause, not recognition, not luck. This is where many men finally begin to understand Stoicism. The philosophy was never about suppressing emotions. It was about directing energy toward what can actually be controlled. The effort, the discipline, the response, the character. Everything else remains uncertain. The moment you detach your identity from outcomes, failure loses much of its power over you. And once that happens, a different kind of confidence begins to emerge. Not loud confidence, not performative confidence, quiet confidence, the kind nobody can take away. But there is another habit that makes this confidence even stronger, and almost nobody practices it anymore. Habit number 4. Disappear from unnecessary noise. A man wakes up, checks social media, checks messages, checks news, checks notifications, checks opinions. Before breakfast, hundreds of people have already entered his mind. Most never asked permission. By noon, his mood has changed multiple times. Not because of his life, because of other people's lives. This is one of the least discussed psychological weaknesses of modern society. Constant exposure creates constant influence. Every opinion competes for your attention. Every trend competes for your identity. Every controversy competes for your emotions. And eventually many men stop hearing their own thoughts. Now here's the disturbing part. The loss happens gradually, so gradually that most never notice it. They believe they're informed. They're actually distracted. They believe they're connected. They're actually fragmented. Many of history's strongest thinkers spent long periods in solitude. Not isolation. Solitude. There is a difference. Isolation weakens. Solitude strengthens. One removes connection. The other restores clarity. Psychologically untouchable men create intentional distance from noise. They protect their attention the way warriors protect their weapons. Because attention determines direction, and direction determines destiny. If this perspective is helping you see hidden influences more clearly, take a moment to like the video. It helps these ideas reach men searching for deeper self-mastery instead of shallow distractions. Now we arrive at the final habit. The one most men spend years resisting. The one that quietly separates mature strength from emotional dependence. Habit number 5. Accept that nobody is coming to save you. A man loses his job. His friends disappear. His family cannot help. His circumstances become difficult. For months he waits. He waits for support. He waits for rescue. He waits for someone stronger to appear. Eventually a realization hits him. No one is coming. And strangely enough, that realization becomes the beginning of his freedom. Because dependence creates vulnerability, responsibility creates power. The moment he stopped waiting, he started acting. He learned new skills. He rebuilt his finances. He rebuilt his confidence. He rebuilt himself. This is not a cynical lesson. It is a liberating one. When you stop expecting rescue, you discover resources you never knew existed. You discover resilience. You discover discipline. You discover courage. You discover sovereignty. Most importantly, you discover that the person you've been waiting for is already staring back at you from the mirror. Many men fear this truth because it sounds harsh. But reality does not become kinder when ignored. The strongest men eventually understand that responsibility is not a burden. It is a privilege, because responsibility places your future back into your own hands. And if you're committed to building that kind of mindset, Subscribe and continue this journey alongside men who refuse to surrender their lives to excuses, weakness, or circumstance. The world will always contain chaos. People will disappoint you. Plans will fail. Opportunities will vanish. Criticism will appear. Loss will arrive without warning. None of that is changing. The real question is whether those things will control you. Psychological strength is not the ability to avoid storms. It is the ability to remain yourself inside them. The man who no longer needs approval. The man who cannot be easily provoked. The man who acts without attachment. The man who protects his attention. The man who accepts responsibility. That man becomes difficult to manipulate, difficult to intimidate, difficult to break, and eventually, almost impossible to stop. Not because he conquered the world, because he finally conquered himself. And that is the one victory no one can take from him.